Like your chocolate donut and chocolate milk combo. You've gone for the double chocolate.
Some people go double denim.
I'm more of a double chocolate man
myself. You count that. This is a double.
Was it? It's a double chocolate drink.
Yeah, so...
I thought, if anything, the donut would be the double chocolate, not the drink.
The drink.
You've blown me away.
That's what we do.
We of the Chocolate Guild.
The Chocolate Guild. It's a wonderful waste of time. It's a wonderful waste of time. It's a wonderful waste of time. It's a wonderful waste of time.
Hello and welcome to the 29th ever A Wonderful Waste of Time podcast. I'm Kross, and with me as always is...
SG.
Is...
It's a good SG. It was getting excited. I was
like,
I was like, whoa.
I'm bringing my stage techniques into the podcast.
Damn.
I've never done anything on stage, but there it is.
That's the natural.
Got the theory down.
It just, whoa. If you was at a kid's party, they would be cheering so much right now.
The podcast where I start shouting, "Can you hear me at the back?" That's when it's gone too far.
You're not going to get much of it.
Until we do a live episode.
Mm.
Oh, saucy.
Mm.
Who knows? Maybe one day.
Probably
not.
I mean, like, if you've got people watching, like, you could get two people and then put one behind the other.
Yeah.
And it's like,
then you at the back. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yes, I can.
Yeah. That works. So it doesn't take much to accomplish a dream.
It would be easier if I wasn't directly behind the one other person in the audience, but I'll make do.
Yeah, well, that kind of stuff gets edited out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll cut that fucker out.
I mean, if they can add fake laughs to friends, I'm sure we can, take away heckles.
That's not really a heckle. I feel like that was a polite... A polite asking to sit next to someone rather than behind them in a two-person situation.
Nah. You don't turn up to the Royal Albert Hall and say, "Look, I don't like the way your seats are set out." You know what I mean? Don't come up to the podcast and be like...
I would if I was sat in the second row behind the one other person there who was sat in front of me in the first row.
Nah, you know what seats you sign up for? You stick in on seats, right? Jesus. That's rude. If that guy, you know what, if we do another episode and some guy else gets ratty about where he's sitting,
you're kicking him out.
I'm kicking him out, literally. Feet to door. That's what's happening.
You're going to chuck him out like Uncle Phil to Jazzy Jeff.
Get the swinging motion out.
Yeah.
and it's just cut scene of them just flying out of whatever door. Yeah, so don't come up in here with your... I don't want to sit.
If you're ever in that specific situation, keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself and be grateful.
This is the podcast where we look deeper into the things we like, love and hate. There you go. It worked in after like 2.5 minutes. Was it that? That's the thing you hate.
That's the thing I hate.
People complaining about seating arrangements.
Rude.
Oh.
Rudeness.
So this is a version of the podcast where we spin a wheel to decide which of us is going to talk about a thing, and then spin another wheel to pick a category to talk about. Don't say it. And then we pick something off of our own lists that we've made up to talk about. Don't mention categories.
Sorry.
Right, you ready? Spin the wheel.
Yeah. Right.
Do you want to make the sounds of you chucking that guy out?
Go on.
Go.
What do you mean? What? Who?
What?
That was.
Who are you, Hong Kong Philly?
No, this is action effects, man. What the?
This is like a martial arts film.
No, it's not.
Is there wire work
This is how you show that the movement is happening. You know?
That's the Samurai Jack noise.
You know?
Stop.
That was the was them hitting the floor, actually.
It's you.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
It's you, the person who never has a complete list. Whoa. Let's gamble to see if you've got a thing under the topic it lands on.
Whoa.
Now, give me the guy after he's been thrown out and he's outside and he's like, "Oh no, what have I done?" Go.
Next time I come up to someone's podcast, I won't be complaining about where I sit. I'm going to enjoy the fact they're over there and they're giving us entertainment. And they'll be entertaining, and I'll be complaining about the entertainment because what? I can only see this back of someone's head? Well, you know what? I don't care, right? I don't care.
Stop. A bit unfair. The guy probably paid to be there.
Yeah, well, you know.
Cartoons/animes.
Cartoons/anime. Right. We're gonna take it to the golden times. We're gonna look at the golden times. The golden times. This is where
I remember
there was a bridge. Well, no. So there was a bridge where anime, right?
Yeah.
It's been massive forever, but I feel like it's still slowly going through this westernized process where it's still not as accessible. I mean, like Netflix is slowly, updating its anime catalog.
Yeah,
slowly, it's growing. And,
Netflix are producing quite a lot. Of anime
they're
as well.
bringing it, but obviously it's only started growing. Whereas there's been a rich history of anime, and I want to talk about, I guess, one of the main figures in that transitional stage.
An older.
Yeah, well, let's just come out and say it. I want to talk about Studio Ghibli.
You should talk about them in general.
Well, not in general. Not a specific film as such. Going with the Fireflies is one of a good example of a film that does this. Even though it's still based in, I think it was based about Japan, wasn't it? It was based on.
I do not know.
It was a war film. I don't think it has specified the area, but they may have. Anyways, I want to talk about how one, it made it accessible to the Western. To the Western world. But two, it's kind of because of this kind of little bit of a racist undertone of, what animation... Well, just bear with me.
Yeah.
Here. Bear with me here, right? To be accessible to the Western world, anime had to become extremely westernized. And Studio Ghibli is a good example of this, where they stripped away a lot of, the exaggerated features or factors that made certain early anime stand out. They very much stuck with a structure and a story that certain people, I don't know, I feel like they, apart from Princess Mononoke, which is very spiritual, I feel like they dealt with more, how can I say, realism. They went to a more Disney factor storyline that wasn't quite I don't know, it wasn't as imaginative as anime. It was very Western animation kind of storylines, It wasn't as wild, it wasn't as colourful, it wasn't as
less surreal.
Less surreal. Wow, you've done that so well. You've done that so well. You're good with this words. Yeah, it was less surreal. And it's that was a very Western thing of animation. That's Western cartoons, whereas anime was more about the imaginative realm, and I think that was one of the reasons it wasn't accepted in the Western world. Yeah, a lot of things that you get about anime it's too silly.
So they took out some of the abstract qualities to make it more universal.
Yeah, and even with stuff like Porco Rosso, it's a talking pig, but it's still the story.
Yeah, but that's the thing that we're used to. That's just Babe, isn't it?
Exactly.
So,
I think Princess Mononoke is probably one of their braver one, and what was the other one? Not Howl's Moving Castle. That was still quite witches and whatever. The one where she's in the other world. She's in the other realm. She went to this place with her parents, and they get turned into this big pig fins.
Do you want me to name all of the Studio Ghibli films I know?
Go on.
Howl's Moving Castle? You've already
not that one.
said.
Yeah.
My Neighbour Totoro is not
No,
that
it's that
one.
one, that's a good
Spirited Away.
No,
there's a lot of
There's a lot. But anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that's another one of their surreal anime. Any Studio Ghibli fan will be there to back you up.
I have never really watched any Studio Ghibli
You haven't watched much
films.
of it?
I don't think I've watched any Studio Ghibli films.
I fail to believe that.
I've just never seen them come on to anything, and I've never gone out and bought them.
They were on Film 4 for ages.
Just never watched them.
Really?
Are there any on Netflix?
I don't know.
Because then I probably will.
Maybe one of the new ones is out. Maybe Gone with the Wind.
There's a few of them I've always wanted to watch. I just never
such
have.
As
Totoro I wanted to see, just because that's one that everyone goes on about.
My Neighbour Totoro.
Yeah. That's the main one that I wanted to see. Also, I think is adorable. And it reminds me a bit of Lilo and Stitch, looking at it. But yeah, no, I'd like to see more of them in general. So I get what you mean with getting rid of some of the surrealism, and you say you should westernize it. A lot of Disney films they're not American stories, they're very European stories. A lot of them are based off of European things. So a lot of them are based off of old books and stuff like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
So a lot of them are very European, like
Familiarity
Scandinavian and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I get what you mean with that, but I don't think it's a thing of trying to make it more accessible to them. I think it's just trying to make it more accessible in general. Because I think maybe there are some things that is just... I think if you're making a family film, you probably would make it super surreal because then it would be too confusing for kids.
Well, I don't know. Like, there's you even named a really good one, which was Ponyo.
Yeah.
That's a little bit surreal.
What's that about?
It's like a tide-poly thing. That's literally all I can remember about it. It's a little bit surreal, but it's still fun. It's still family anime.
Where's the difference between that and Finding Nemo? That's Battle Fish.
Okay, cool. That's
I don't think that Disney and Pixar aren't not surreal to that degree. They're not like very surreal.
Well, okay, so back to
I really call that surreal.
It was Spirited Away, by the way. It was Spirited Away, the one I was talking about.
There was a pig in the picture, that's what made me think it was that.
It was Spirited Away. My bad, people. Yeah, Spirited Away. Good. Really good. Really good. Very good film. But anyways, back to anime. I feel like, so if we look at the later stages of anime and what started to infiltrate with regard, apart from the, what's it called? The pornographic, is it hentai? Hentai, yeah. Apart from, the very famous one with the dicks growing everywhere.
Is that the very famous one?
Yeah, there's this like, it's always quoted, like, it's always like, the clips are always shown as the extremeness of...
Oh, really?
What, yeah. I've seen it in a couple, again, Channel 4.
Yeah.
I've put it out there a few times. I don't know if they've shown the actual film, but I've seen the clip a lot on stuff on Channel 4, so... There we go. Dicks growing out of buildings.
Cool.
Anime. But apart from that one, the later stages of anime...
Phallic Attack on Titan.
A phallic attack. Oh, I hope it was called that.
Phallic on Titan.
Wait, what was that?
I said, is it like a phallic attack on Titan?
Phallic Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
No, it's a really good sentence.
Penises destroying buildings.
Yeah, that's really good. Phallic Attack
on Titan.
Like,
it's a good tongue twister.
If you was a rapper, that would be a line you'd be, proud of, really.
Yeah.
Phallic Attack on Titan. These dicks be attacking.
Great.
That's terrible.
Yeah, no,
okay, cool. Anyways,
oh no.
Sorry. That was such a bad line. So, the later stages of anime that became accessible, like, now we're talking about the Dragon Ball Zs and actually Dragon Ball Z and Naruto is a little bit different. Naruto, I think, is much more with the traditional ninja story, but Dragon Ball Z is out there. It's out there. Now, if something like that can become popular, just due to the fact that it's hype, it's big, it's flashy, it's got some crazy storylines, but it's out there. You've got to find 7 magical balls that gives you a wish from a big dragon, and you're fighting space aliens that are more powerful than anything.
I think you're making it sound more surreal than it is, because I don't see what the difference between that and a lot of Western cartoons are. That's not that different.
Dragon Ball Z? Well, okay, when you say Western cartoons, like, example.
Oh, for an example, fucking hell. I didn't think you was going to make me come up with an example straight away. What's the difference between, like, that and Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings. But these are very... Like, Lord of the Rings is based on things that
was just all of our time.
I know, but that's something that we're...
Because I was just thinking, that's about them travelling to find fucking balls.
But
that's about them travelling to fuck up a ring.
But we're used to orcs and wizards and...
Yeah, because that's where you are. You live in here. This is Europe. Those are European fantasies.
Yeah.
But it's all just fantasy stuff. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
think
Dragon Ball Z is like more space stuff. It's not like fantasy in regards to like magic. There's a lot of like, I guess like with regards to building up chi and stuff like that. That's a lot of the okay that side of it. But then yin yang kind of gathering energy from the earth and all of that.
That's just fantasy stuff. It's just a different fantasy stuff.
The whole alien aspect of it, the whole
there is sci-fi here as well.
I don't know. Like when we talk
have you heard of a little film called The Star Wars?
Star Wars. Okay, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Star Wars is Yeah, aliens.
Yeah. Also, would you say that in Dragon Ball Z they sort of trek through the stars, or?
Not really. Actually,
So I've got another good example for that as
There's
well.
a lot of heaven and earth stuff going on as well, and like it's quite out there. It's quite out there, you know. Like I feel like Dragon Ball Z is really out there with regards to storyline and characters.
I really don't think that in terms of story and stuff they're that out there. I think it's in a different way. But I don't think they're that different.
Even Pokemon, right? Pokemon. What? I mean, and Pokemon is largely accessible, but it was originally.
It's probably the most accessible anime of all.
Of course. But it was originally, anime. It was Japanese.
Yeah.
So, what's the comparison to that? What can you tell me that had that kind of gravitas, that kind of storyline, or even that kind of that thought track of this is what we're doing? It's going to be one kid who is just clearly too young to be outside, controlling a bunch of monsters that can actually kill people, and they store them in little balls.
No, but that's what I'm saying, that you can do it the other way around as well, though. There must be Western things that wouldn't be super accessible in Japan because it's a different history of stories.
Yeah, okay, but like what? Like I feel like more so.
It's a bit hard for me to pull it from the other direction when.
You don't know what their reference would be, but I still think. Basically, I feel like Studio Ghibli could have still done more surreal
I can
things.
Wait, I've got an example.
Go on.
It's an obscure example, and no one's going to get it.
Okay.
There's a film called Stray Dogs. Okay, it's a Japanese-made film.
Yeah.
It's Akira Kurosawa, who is a huge Japanese director.
Yeah.
Who became obsessed with noir films, and he wanted to make his own noir film. But if you watch the film, it's not a noir film because he tries to put Japanese customs onto a noir film, which negate everything that a noir film is. So the basic principles of a noir film having things like a lone detective who is doing everything on their own and they're sort of driven just to solve the case or whatever.
Yeah.
In Stray Dogs, he has like there's sort of like a master and apprentice situation, which is a very Japanese traditional thing, which takes away from that. So there are things that, if they catch on in Japan that are from other cultures, wouldn't work, and if they try to apply their own stuff, it wouldn't work the same.
I don't think anime, in that sense, I don't think that's a cultural thing though. Like the stories and again, who's storing animals in balls in Japan? It's still out there. It's
how many private eyes are there that are solving police level crimes in Americana? In the 20s.
Probably tons. Probably millions. They were all out there.
I think you're trying to make it sound more different than it is. All that you've seemed to explain to me so far is that in different places in the world, they have a different history of stories.
No.
That's all you've accomplished so far.
I don't think so. I think I'm just approaching this in the wrong way. Right. So let's gather again. Right, let's gather again. So I don't know. You make a good point. When I look at it, okay, it could be. I may have taken away this.
And I think you can't look at the other side of it. Do you know how successful Disney films are in Japan? I fucking don't.
Yeah,
I'm not in Japan.
It's a good point, actually. I may have just totally been oblivious to this.
I think all that we are aware of currently is that Japanese stuff is very popular in the West at the moment.
Yeah.
We don't know that anything... I know that there's some people that... I was trying to look it up. There's some trends of very English stuff in Japan I was trying to find stuff about. But I wouldn't say to the degree of specifically Japanese, not Eastern stuff, specifically Japanese stuff here. The fact that you can talk about all the Studio Ghibli films in the first place shows you that they are very much accepted here. Even the most surrealist ones of them.
No, Studio Ghibli is accepted here.
And a lot of anime. You just talked about... we were talking about how much anime there is on Netflix. There's all of Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
There's everything that's on here. There is all the merchandise. There are festivals about it. Conventions.
I don't think. Right, so there'll be people who say, I will watch Studio Ghibli, but I don't watch anime. There's still that...
So there are people that watch Disney but don't watch cartoons. It's the same thing.
That's a good point, I guess.
There are people that wouldn't watch Adventure Time, but are going to go and watch Snow White or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they hold Disney in a different regard because of nostalgia and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think Studio Ghibli is like a nostalgia thing, though.
But I do think Studio Ghibli is very much like Disney. I think they're very similar companies with a similar set of films because they're both making family films.
Yeah, okay.
They're just quite. They're all generally quite accessible because that's what a family film is.
Yeah.
None of them are super weird.
True.
They're all like a bit weird, and they might have talking animals. That's just because everyone likes talking animals.
You've just made a good point with Adventure Time. Actually, you just made a good point. With
That's
Time.
more surreal.
Yeah. I was thinking about it.
That's a good example compared to Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, it's exactly
the same fucking thing.
Great example. That's a great example, actually. And
Granted, it was in some degree probably inspired by things like Dragon Ball Z and stuff
no,
that.
of course. I mean, like, obviously things that have come before. Because you know what it is? Thinking about it now, because you've said that. I'm looking back at the list of the other stuff that I've got, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I'm just like, okay, you know what? You're right. It is historical context. It's just kind of the stories that they had. Like Bleach.
There's another good example.
Yes.
The one you talked about before, where it's all based on European history. Berserker?
Berserker. Yeah, that's a great example.
That's a great example of it going the other direction.
Yeah.
That's all European influenced anime.
It is. One Piece is about pirates as well.
Yeah. Whose fucking culture pirates is, that's just...
Yeah, but I mean...
The sea.
You know, the old yardie. Bleach, though, is also... That Bleach is about spirits and weapons and stuff like that. I think that's very much, traditional Japanese
and there's a lot of
folktales.
characters in big animes that are from other places. I'm watching Death Note because of us talking about it.
Yeah.
El's British, isn't he?
He
spent a lot of time he learned.
But that's
he
the
went to
thing.
school
That's
in
the
Britain
thing.
or something
A
like
lot
that.
of anime, like, and this is the other tone of it is like the weird kind of influence that Western culture has had on anime, where they make a lot of their characters somewhat American. Like in the features that they give them.
I think everyone does that now because it's a huge country that has money to pay for stuff.
Fair point.
And their like concepts aren't so dissimilar to everyone else's because they're kind of
because they've made
the right word.
Norm.
They're like because they're like a hodgepodge of everyone else.
Oh right, fair enough.
because it's an entire country of immigrants.
Yeah.
Everyone's history applies to them because there's someone there that is from where the fuck ever. Okay. Whereas there are probably less Americans in Japan as there are Japanese people in America. Because it's all immigration.
I was just trying to think what that like Jamaican.
Jamiroquai?
I was thinking, what
about Jamiroquai?
What would that word have been? No, fair enough. Yeah, man, you've debunked these very well. I'm just looking at my arguments now and thinking, it's historical context, and I should have probably take that into more account when I'm talking about people's cultural cultural pieces of art. So there you go. Ignorance has now driven that conversation. But I still think Studio Ghibli being more accessible is a little bit more of a adherence spin. I think they did try a little bit to be more accessible to the Western.
To the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas general anime just kind of goes for it,
Yeah. Like, I think a lot of television anime is probably not expected to leave the country. That's probably why. Films are probably created with the expectance that they're going to be worldwide, whereas anime probably just catches on, like any TV show.
That's another really good point.
It's like Doctor Who. Doctor Who wasn't made to be popular in America. It's fucking huge in America.
You know what? That's another really good point. That's a really good point. Because Studio Ghibli do films, right?
Yeah.
I was about to compare films to like TV. Oh my god. Wow. On that note, I think I've covered that.
We've still got time in this topic, so find something else.
Right. Well, I think the other side of it is just the accessible animes. We could just go through the first stages of animes, like the things that people should watch.
Yeah.
I think I've named some of them, and these are the accessible ones. These are the ones that kind of because there are some out there
universally accepted.
Yeah, there are some out there.
There are some things that I think are very conceptual. I talked about Death Note. That's very.
Again, I think that's quite a cultural thing.
Japanese.
Yeah, that's very much like
all the Shinigami stuff and things like that. Obviously, are comparable to really. Death Note's very comparable to like what's the Dr. Faustus?
Dr. Faustus.
Where he makes a deal with the devil. Essentially, do you remember that?
Yeah,
it is comparable to things like that, where it's a concept that is understood here, but it's just done in a way that is less.
I would say
less obvious to us.
I would say it's closer to the concept of Greek gods and like gods of death. That's essentially what they are. They are gods of death. So like.
But how is the devil not that?
The devil's a fallen angel. Well, he's not god of death.
No, it's not actually the devil, is it? Dr. Faustus, it's Mephistus. It's a demon.
Is it? Okay, it's a specific demon. Okay.
Do you remember that? You were obsessed with that.
I was obsessed with Faustus. I know, I still love Faustus, but I didn't. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while. What's it called? If it was a specific demon, then it's a little bit closer actually, because that's exactly what that was.
Yeah. I'd say that actually no, I think that's a very accessible.
What, Death Note?
Yeah. Oh, because really all it is detectives, which are pretty much universally understood.
Yeah.
Angry school children, that's pretty much universally understood.
Well, a lot of anime.
Master detectives, like he's just Sherlock Holmes with some squatting. And making sort of, it's not a deal with the devil, but it is like it's that kind of forbidden concept, which is kind of
really accessible.
Yeah, acceptable Western, particularly because like there must be Bible stuff that's like that as well and things like that are similar to that. It's a bit like forbidden fruit. It's that kind of shit, isn't it?
It is. Okay, so Death Note, that can be broken down very accessibly. Naruto, that's just about, ninjas, essentially, so that's accessible. Yeah. Although it is quite out there with the whole transformation stuff. But again, I think if we look at the cultural context, it probably makes a lot more sense to them. One Piece is actually, I think, one of the more out there ones, because it's not about any kind of particular fighting style or anything like that.
That is weird.
It is basically a bunch of pirates.
Weird.
Actually, you know what? The whole concept of it is actually interesting. Pirates. Yeah, no, basically. Well, it's based
There was
around...
Mr. Fantastic.
Who's Mr. Fantastic?
From the Fantastic Four with the stretchy arms.
Is that what you call a Luffy?
Some kind of elk in a hat.
Elk in a hat, okay.
I don't remember the other characters. Guy with 3 swords.
Zorro.
Yeah. That's all the people I remember from that show. I haven't watched it.
Chopper is the main guy.
He's my favourite before I've even watched it.
But basically, so the story of One Piece... Actually, when I think about it now, this is a great one to lead with because it's out there. Pirates, granted, that's accessible, but they eat... So there's fruits. They live in a world where there's certain fruits that give you a certain power. Yeah. Right? And this is based around one individual who ate a fruit that gave him the power to be a robber, basically. Became
a master thief.
No.
Oh, rubber.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not stretchy.
The material.
Mr. Fantastic.
That's Luffy. Yeah, that's his name. And then obviously there are people in his team. By the way, if you eat one of these fruits, you can't swim. Yeah, I know, it's quite interesting.
There's like a weird amount of people in Japanese stuff that can't swim.
Is this
like Sonic the Hedgehog?
Is this thing? He can't swim.
He can't swim. That was like a thing for ages until he eventually learned he could run on water.
Okay.
And he got over that shit.
There you go. Yeah, that's
he just can't stop.
Jesus mode.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
I can figure. Oh, not off the top of my head. There is definitely a few things. It's probably just a game thing, isn't it? Really, that's what I'm thinking of it from. A lot of games you can't swim. I was just thinking about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, there we go. Well, that's
carry on.
Interesting, yeah, and actually, they roam the sea for one island that has unforeseeable treasure, basically. But that's out there, man. All the characters are like because of the concept of each fruit. Yeah, has a different power. There are a lot of crazy people out
that's
there.
That's also a very common thing as well, isn't it? Magic fruits.
Magic fruits, I guess.
You think of like Pokemon and magic berries.
It's a little bit more. It's a bit different though.
The fruit in Kingdom Hearts. The star.
But these are all animes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's like a common thing.
That's the kind of thing
objects,
that's like, you know, like I think actually that's quite a global thing. Again, when I think about, the more I think about this,
everywhere's the same.
Yeah, because enchanted objects that's a global thing. From food to weapons, you know, that's a Excalibur, you know, like just things like that. That's
Merlin and his brooms in Disney.
Well, yeah, actually Disney's a bit bland. I'm not gonna lie, Disney's a bit bland. I think Disney's is just more straightforward, apart from the talking.
I think again that is because it's all stuff that is contextually more familiar to you. That's why it feels blander, because it's stuff that you've seen shitloads of, because that's what most of stuff is.
Maybe this is all that is. Maybe this is me just saying I like different things.
Yeah,
but I'm just.
I think that's why Japan obviously does it really well, because it is one of the biggest embraced cultures in the Western world. Compared to most other places, Japan is definitely the most loved. You've got to think...
Is that a fact there? Apart from America,
no, I think that pretty much... No, more than... No, I'm saying in the Western world. So to America and to here. But that's because of anime, because we all like cartoons, so there's a link up there. Games.
Yeah.
And I think we think of them as kind of being weird, and most of us like that.
But that's the thing. So
it's become a big thing in nerd culture.
Yeah.
You said about it being an undertone of racism. I don't think it's that.
No, that was just.
I think it's more.
Purposes, really.
It's more two things. I can't think of the proper word to describe it as. The only word that is coming to mind is fetishizing it. But it is kind of a little bit that. But I can't think of the other word for it.
That's a good.
Because it is more that we stereotype it in one way, but we like that stereotype. And I think people do that to us as well. There are Americans that like English stuff, but then they're all tea and fucking crumpets.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not actually what we are, but that's the part
the idea
of our stereotype that you like, so that's the bit you've embraced.
Cool.
So, whereas, America's obviously quite bad for it in general. They seem to stereotype themselves and everyone else. A lot more than I think people from other cultures do.
They run on labels, yeah.
But to think of Japan as being this weird surreal, and they're all like, Japanese game shows and anime's weird, and people are kind of pervy.
The game shows
and
are out there,
that's the fetishizing of things, and they're not all inaccurate.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice to enjoy other people's cultures.
Oh, of course. Enjoy it.
I think that's
to the end of it.
That's the point of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just. Yeah.
You gotta find what you love. It's not necessarily at home.
No, it's fair enough, actually. The more I think about this, I think, you know what? It's just different types of cartoons that are culturally more adapt, and I just have been ignorant to that. I put my hands up to this and say it's been fun to talk about anime. It's not been fun to realise how much of an idiot I've been.
Let's go back to Studio Ghibli, because obviously that's what started this off. What's your favourite Studio Ghibli film?
Right, so Spirited Away is one of them, but I think my favourite is Grave of the Fireflies, because it just pulls at my heartstrings so much. It's so sad.
I've never heard of that one. So I'll look into that.
Yeah, no, you should.
I don't have one, because I've never watched any of them, as I've said.
You should. I would start with Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
Because they're both really kind of strong action. But you know, one thing that's really good about literally forgot what we was talking about Studio Ghibli, right?
Yeah.
Is a lot of leading female characters. A lot.
I think that is one of the problems with Disney, and obviously that's a trend that's being bucked a bit now because people are calling them out for it. And it is partially because they're based on old fairy tales and stuff like that. But there is obviously a lot of Disney films where female characters are just like looking to get saved and fall in love rather than going out and do shit.
Nah,
until like Mulan, when that kind of started changing a bit.
Yeah, well, Studio Ghibli don't want that shit.
Yeah,
you know,
from what I've seen, a lot of the time the main characters are women.
Yeah, and they don't do the same.
And are they based on old stories? It's not the same as Disney, is it? I think
wouldn't know, would we?
They're all written as films, aren't they?
I don't know, but we wouldn't know, would we? This is what we've just discovered. Well, if they're all traditional, like Japanese stories,
Google it.
Oh, what do you think it would say?
Yeah, I think it'd be very easy to find
not all
out.
Disney films are say what stories they're based on.
No, but they're the same titles typically as the stories that they're based on.
Oh, what, like Pinocchio?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Beauty and the Beast.
I was talking about Lion King, you know, which is loosely based on stuff, you know, like...
That's loosely based on Shakespeare and a cartoon called Kimbra the White Lion.
Yeah, so I saw that rip-off situation.
Yeah.
Top Disney.
But I think that's just the character. I don't know if the story is the same, but it's basically Macbeth, isn't it? It's the same story.
Macbeth, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Fair.
I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that.
No, I feel like I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it for that part. We'll see you after a short break where we'll be picking the second topic. And let's hope we know a little bit more about it going into it.
Screw you. Screw you. It's a wonderful waste of time.
People think in America, this thing we didn't have time to talk about because we would have gone on too long. But in America and here, people that are into anime think that all anime is amazing because the only anime they see is the ones that are good enough to be here. You don't see the shit side of stuff because it wouldn't get shipped. You cherry pick bits of history like you cherry pick parts of other people's culture because you pick out the bits that you like.
You tell them. Should have put that one on there.
Yeah, I know. I can now. It's still recording. Let's stick that in.
Boom. Extras.
And now we'll be back. Well, when you finish eating that donut.
I'm going to say that last bite.
Cool. So we're back now then.
1 second.
Cool. So good first half. Interesting things there.
Lessons learned. Lessons learned.
Culture. What does it all mean?
War. What
is it good for?
You know? The right questions.
Shall we spin the wheel again? I don't know where you're going to go noise-wise now. Kind of used up the first one.
Yeah. I mean... Well, I mean, I've taken enough out of like the Japanese culture with the horrible noises I made earlier.
Do me some Dragon Ball charging up noises.
Okay.
Cool. That shit.
Kamehameha.
Yeah, that's the chap.
Yeah.
Go. Stop. Me.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah. Whoa, that's
and continue. Stop.
Oh, cool.
Games.
Oh,
games.
Nice.
When will I land on film? It has been a while. Film.
It's
my main topic.
It's just sad. It's not that sad. It's just kind of normal, really. That's the thing about the wheel. You can't control it.
That's the point of the wheel. Yeah, that is why we use the wheel.
You just have to
roll out of our hands.
Roll with it. So, you know, you will get films when the wheel says you get films. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair to be. The great decider, our god, the wheel.
Well, I mean,
praise the wheel.
Don't worship the wheel. The wheel doesn't want to be worshipped. It just wants to be respected.
I mean,
wow. It's just like,
writing a book about
what everyone wants to know he's wearing a
change
hat.
The world.
A wheel hat is basically just a circle.
Little wheel hat.
It's just a circle that spins pivots.
Like a hat. It's like a circle. You could turn it around. It's got a big brim on it.
Yeah.
It's great.
But yeah.
So I'm going to talk about one of my favourite game series.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned it a few times before anyway. Sam and Max.
Cool.
So Sam and Max started off as a comic book by Steve Purcell.
Like the detergent?
No. Sorry. Heir to the Purcell fortune? No. Steve Purcell, who wrote the comics, which I believe it was characters that his brother had created, and then he started making it into comics. Cool. And then they caught on a bit, and then LucasArts, who made point-and-click adventure games mostly at the time. like George Lucas, his company, LucasArts,
Yeah, cool.
started making a game of Sam and Max. So it was Sam and Max Hit the Road. It is an old school point and click game. It is Tales of Monkey Island. It's that era. It's that kind of style. It is.
Cool.
He's obviously that's LucasArts as well. It is basically the exact same as that. If no one's played Sam and Max but has played Tales of Monkey Island.
I haven't played that, so there we go.
So Sam and Max, I suppose, just go into what the story is a little bit first.
Go on.
It's about a dog who's a detective.
Yes.
His name's Sam.
Dog Sam.
Max, who's a rabbit who only every now and then gets referred to as a rabbit, but mostly as a hyperkinetic rabbity thing. Or a lagomorph, which is... a lagomorph is the genome of rabbits.
Okay.
So he's a rabbit, but he's not a rabbit. It's like rabbits and hares, and then whatever Max is. They are described as freelance police.
Freelance vigilantes.
Essentially,
yeah.
So they're police officers, but they're not actually part of the police. They're kind of like private investigators.
Cool.
More so. So in the comics, it tends to be them going out, and it's just like an action thing. They go and solve weird shit and get into shit. Is about it. Like, the comics don't transfer into the game that much other than the characters and the setting and stuff like that, the basic story of it. But most point and click games are centered around like detectives and stuff like that. Yeah. So obviously the fact that they're freelance police easily translates into that. And you're talking about surreal before. What I want to talk about now is surreal.
God.
So Sam and Max, not only obviously is it kind of weird the fact that they're freelance police and they're a dog in a suit without shoes on and a naked rabbit who somehow has a Luger pistol hidden somewhere that they won't tell you about. It's probably up his butt.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the fact that the way that the games function is to solve puzzles in a way that doesn't always make sense. But that's the point of it. There's a logic to it.
Yeah.
But it's not super direct. So like a lot of point and click games, it's just like... So recently we've been playing, and will be coming out on the internet soon for everyone to watch, we've been playing Kona together. And in that you pick up a hammer, you use a hammer. You pick up some pliers, you use it for pliering.
Yeah.
In this you pick up a bowling ball, throw it out the window to knock out someone who's been hypnotised.
Nice.
It's that kind of illogical logic.
A little bit different.
Yeah. And that's quite typical of like the LucasArts game and the people that came out of LucasArts to make the rest of the series, which is Telltale Games. So the people that now make Walking Dead and a lot of... They're not adventure games anymore. They are like dialogue games. It's like playing a film that you can walk around in a little bit, but you mostly talk to people. Which was a thing in the point and click games. You still went around and talked to people and had loads of dialogue options, but it was never like the things you say affect the story later on. It was just you can just keep repeating dialogue so you work out how to solve all the puzzles.
Yeah.
So Sam and Max gets pretty weird. So the first game is a little bit weird. There's some weird shit in there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to focus... They're all point and click games. Yeah. Cool. So there's 3 seasons and 1 separate game. So the original game was just 1 game. Yeah. The rest of them are split up into episodes as part of a series. So they're all a bit shorter than the regular game. They take about like an hour or whatever to play.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
And then the first series is 6 games, and then the other 2 are 5 games each. If you look at like the stories that are set up in it, they're all a bit weird anyway. But then the further you go into it, you sort of get used to it, and I think that's why it's interesting and why I like the game, because you sort of have to get into the mind frame of this particular game, like how things work here and what kind of thing that they'd do to solve it. Yeah. So you don't just do like the logical thing, because it'll avoid you doing the logical thing. It will put something in your path and say, no, do this thing instead that's super weird. So the first season of it is about people getting hypnotised. Like I said about the bowling ball out the window to knock someone out and stuff like that. So the whole season is about people being hypnotised in different situations. It starts off with 3 child actors who are now grown-up has-beens called the Soda Poppers. and they've been hypnotised by a guy called Brady Culture, who is another like has-been TV person.
Yeah.
He looks a bit like Bob Ross. He's got like the big hair and stuff like that.
Nah.
But yeah, so that is just hypnotism. There's not much to that one that's... obviously, hypnotism's a bit weird, but then as you go throughout the series, the second one is about TV host who is hypnotising people by accident because she's been hypnotised. So as you go through the whole series, you find out everyone's been hypnotised. To the point where when you get to the 5th game, you find out that this is all being done by a guy that you've met a few times. Spoilers, obviously.
Yeah.
His name is Hugh Bliss, and he is the founder of Prismatology, which is like a colour cult, essentially.
Cool.
And also he goes to the moon, and you have to follow him to the moon to stop all the hypnotism that's happening, because he's going to hypnotise the whole world. And then you find out that he's not actually some guy called Hugh Bliss. He's a colony of parasitic aliens that have taken human form.
That one person.
Yeah, so he's a load of things.
He just kind of
just bundled together
to
create a person.
Wow.
Small but then stuff like that's weird.
Yeah.
But then that becomes part of the story.
So you get used to it.
So you get used to it, and you have to work out how to solve the puzzles based on what you know about this weird story. So in the final battle of the first series, he can like teleport you and stuff like that. So he keeps putting you into situations, and he knows you can get out of it, but he's trying to he's torturing you. Yeah. So he puts you on like a spinning wheel of death thing, and you manage to get out of that. And then the second bit, he puts you in like a magic soaring in half box thing.
Cool.
You have to get out of that. Yeah, so
that's nice.
And then the third thing is you're in like a tank of water, and you're going to drown in there, then you get out of that.
It sounds like he's just training you to be a great magician.
He is just torturing you through magic.
I mean, torturing, training...
You're training at the deep end.
Yeah, chuck you right in there.
But the way that you have to defeat him is you get the saw from the sawing the box in half thing, and you saw the leg off of like a lunar lander thing that's nearby because you're on the moon.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then that's facing the tank of water. So when you swap places with him, so he's in the tank of water, you turn on the lunar lander, and the thrusters boil the water because he's like this colony of aliens. It boils him to death.
Cool.
So all of that makes no fucking sense, but there's all the logic through it.
Yeah.
So it's all like really surreal, but the way that you get through it and the way that you solve everything does make sense.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Of course. No, you put them in the water, you boil them using the thrusters from the rocket.
That's how you would kill germs normally.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what you're trying to do. But it's in this concept of aliens that have turned into a man to promote prismatology.
It's weird as shit, but it makes sense. Yeah, I get that, definitely.
So that's kind of what I really love about those games. And I do think that is a thing that happens in a lot of other games. I've talked about Sierra games before, and like King's Quest and all of their King's Quest, Space Quest, Police Quest. They're all more normal situations because it's just like a knight who's going to become king, or you are the king already, you're a police officer, whatever it is. But they do throw in these weird bits where you've got to learn the logic of the situation to solve the puzzles.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I think that's
get used to the playing field.
That's the thing that you don't get in other games, because you can play a shooter set in any world, but all you're doing is shooting people. Yeah. You know, all you're going to learn is to shoot a different place on the body or something like that. You don't get that kind of involved lore where you're actively taking part of it.
Yeah. I can't remember, I want to say it's a bit like Oddsworld, but I can't remember Oddsworld to know enough about because that was kind of a puzzly game. So
Oddworld was mostly, it was just a straight up puzzle game. It was just trying to get them into certain points without dying.
Yeah, but obviously you still had to like certain aliens would do certain things, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So you have to
I suppose that is more normal that there are characters than you just learn like what you learn about this species, and then you tend to get like one thing. So like you're saying like that, they like certain types of food and stuff like that. You'll have one food, and that's what you use to attract them, and then that's their entire character.
I get that. Yeah.
Whereas in something like this, it's like a whole system of stuff that you've got to learn to do weird stuff with, and you've got to understand what the characters are and how you can use things differently. So even like there's one of them where they go into like a virtual reality, and it's a game. It's called Reality 2.0, and it's like it's like the Vive or whatever now, like Oculus Rift, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where they all put on these goggles and they're in that world and they start playing it. But you've got to use the fact that you kind of understand how the logic of this game to do things like this is confusing because I have to keep backtracking to earlier points in the game to explain why you've got a thing. So there is a point in the game at one point where you need to hear what somebody is saying to break into somewhere. So you need to hear a passphrase.
Okay, yeah.
So you need to bug them, but you don't do that with like an electronic recording device. You do it with a literal bug who is trained to repeat things. So you get the bug to do that, but then when you go into the Reality 2.0 one, when you go into the game, you have the bug, but the bug isn't a recording device anymore. It's like a virus. It's a computer bug.
Okay.
So it's become a third thing, and then you have to use that bug to shut down the system by sending it to... You have to go to a mailbox, which is an email box, and then you put the bug into that, so you give everyone in the world a virus to shut down the game.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Again, this is the same thing of like, it's logical, but it doesn't make sense.
it's. I don't know. I think the logic lost me at some point there. that last bit, the email box and bugs and viruses.
Yeah.
That got a little bit tangled somewhere, but sure.
Yeah, but because of that, it does become quite a hard game, because if you don't understand the logic at any point, you can be there for ages trying to work out what the fuck you're supposed to do next, because it's going to be so far removed from what you expect. It probably isn't going to work for a while.
Yeah, see, it's why I like Tomb Raider.
It's a bit more simple.
It just makes a lot of sense what you got to do. You just got to find something. There's always that little edge you're missing, and you're like, okay, cool, I just got to jump there or some bullshit,
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like you just got to jump or pick something up. That sounds a little bit...
You don't tend to jump very often.
No, cool. Not for joy anyways, because you'll be banging your head. Making you want to what's going on. Yeah.
But I like the story of the games as well. It all gets very weird. There's a point where Max becomes the president of America.
I forgot this was about a dog and a rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay, this got even weirder. Yeah. Literally, I forgot.
You want to make that weirder. The episode of it where he becomes the president, he's running against Lincoln, but it's a reanimated statue of Lincoln.
Cool.
Like the one in the chair.
Yeah.
It's him come to life.
Chair?
No, he doesn't.
Okay,
he doesn't bring the chair with him.
No.
He can go back and sit there if he wants to.
Yeah, it's to seat now, isn't he?
So he gets up and then starts running for president.
And
you have to run against him because he's being controlled by the hypnosis. So you can't let him become the president.
He hypnotised the statue.
No, he brought it to life in the first place.
How?
I can't really remember.
Cool.
Yeah.
He brought it to life and then hypnotised it.
He brought it to life and he's under his control.
Cool.
All you know is that you've got to stop him becoming president.
No, of course.
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. That's the main bit is he can't.
You've got to make a rabbit the president.
Stone Lincoln.
Who is, by the way, quite an evil rabbit.
Oh,
so,
he's an evil rabbit.
I mean, you're probably not better. He's definitely made the country worse.
Why is the rabbit evil?
He just has some anarchic tendencies.
Not the type of person to be president.
Not really. He tends to do what the fuck he feels like.
Cool.
But you solve puzzles with it in that way as well, in the fact that you could do what you want. Once he becomes president and you get access to that, There's a puzzle where you've got to, you can only do something on a certain date, but because he's the president, you can change the date on his presidential calendar, and that is now what the date is in the country, because he's the president, so he's in charge.
He can do what the fuck he wants. That's how presidency works.
You gotta think it's like pretty interesting to write something like that.
Yeah.
It must be interesting to be in a position to write something where you can take everything to some weird extremes, and it really fucking does.
Yeah, I think there is a limit of kind of how far you can take it though, where you're just being random. You know, like it's just like
because I think if they didn't have this string of solving puzzles where things have to be logical, because it is super surreal. There is a lot of what people would describe as random. Obviously, none of it's random. It's all planned out.
And then they've put things in there for a reason. There's no.
But yeah, it could easily just be a lot of nonsense. And then I've played point and click games that are trying to be like this kind of game and really don't work. Yeah, and it's just like that. That's not a thing that only worked because eventually I found out by clicking on literally every combination in the game that that's how it works, and then you put some explanation after it. You've not given me the lore enough for me to understand where I need to go. Whereas I think these are well written enough that you know to some degree what you're trying to do, or you have all the parts. You might not necessarily straight away know. Like there's one episode of it that I'm not as keen on because I find it quite hard. Because I replay the games quite a lot, but I leave a long enough period of time that I don't remember how to solve everything, because then it'd be kind of boring if it was just clicking through everything. So I replayed quite recently in the second series. There's one where you're on Easter Island, and there's the Fountain of Youth is on Easter Island, you find out, but it's full of piranhas. So you can't get the water because it's full of piranhas.
How can't you get the water?
Because the piranhas will eat your hand.
I mean, like, if you've got like a sauce, like a really long spoon.
No, you don't have that though.
You don't have a really long
spoon. If you brought a ladle with you.
Yeah, that's what I was
But
thinking.
you didn't.
You didn't. You couldn't create one.
No. There are also the statues there, like the Moai heads.
Yeah.
And they can talk and stuff like that, and you talk to them. There is also this system of Bermuda triangles. As being a thing, so you can set them up in certain positions.
You can set up Bermuda triangles.
So there are like gongs for positions for them that are there, and if you hit the gong, a Bermuda triangle appears above it. It's just like this phenomenal thing. It's just an excuse to have like teleporters.
Yeah.
But the way that you get into the Fountain of Youth and kill the piranhas is you make one of the Moai heads angry. Yeah. So that a little like thundercloud appears above its head.
Cool.
And then there's this whole thing you have to do before that where you have to make a song and you play it to one of the Moai head who controls the wind. So there's like a storm one, a wind one, and an earthquake one. And you make the one who controls the wind start whistling along to the song. So then you make the other one angry again, and the one whistling blows the cloud through one of the Bermuda triangles to where the Fountain of Youth is, and that electrocutes the piranhas.
How do you find that out?
So that's the hardest thing I've come across in the game.
How do you end up finding that out?
It is a thing of you can see where it's all set. After you've done it, you genuinely are like, oh, that's so like that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
because it's all set up so you do it a step at a time. So it's not just like you sharpen. It's like, oh, then you go and get a song and do the. It's like to get the song. You go to one of the characters and you talk to them and they're like, I'm trying to make a song. I want to make a new big hit. So then you solve that and then you've got the song. And then you play it to the one that won't control the wind for you.
Yeah.
And they keep talking about music. So you know that you've got to bring them the song. So it's all got links in the dialogue as to how it all fits together. But writing it so that all makes sense is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I've made a similar game to that before. And I found it quite hard linking everything together so that it made sense. Getting the main stuff was quite good, but throwing in other dialogue and things like that so that it's leading enough that you know what to do, but not just saying what's happening. Because it would be very boring if they were just like, bring the music. That would be shit.
No, and rude as well. You know, like,
you'd be annoyed with the characters there. Yeah, they weren't being very polite.
Like, the hell? Jesus. What am I, a performing monkey? Jesus. Wow. Yeah, cool. Sounds interesting. That game sounds confusing as fuck. I'm not going to lie to you.
I heavily recommend them.
Fair enough.
It's one of my favourite games of all time.
Cool. What are they called again?
Sam and Max.
Sam and Max.
So they've all got different.
And Sam is the
names. Sam's the dog.
Max is
He's the rabbit
kin?
Lagomorph.
Lagomorph is a Lagomorph.
Yeah.
Cool.
There are other animal characters. Most of them are humans, though. Everyone else.
Nah. Humans are boring.
Yeah.
If it's not a talking animal, then really, there's no point playing it, you know?
Well, you say that, but some of the characters are like Santa and a vampire and the devil.
Not all in one.
And the alien that was on the moon.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all pretty weird, and they all have like quite interesting conclusions as well.
Why is Santa and the devil in there?
Oh, no, Santa's not the devil.
No, why is Santa and the devil in there?
Oh, I don't know. They are both in the same series.
In the same series as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
the connection between them is that something was sent to Santa that was supposed to get sent to Satan. It was just a typo. So that's kind of how it links the series together, and you start getting all this Satan-y stuff.
Well, so it's something that was meant for Santa, but it was sent
No,
to Satan.
it was meant for Satan.
But
it
sent
was
to
like
Santa.
a demonic blob, but it got sent to Santa.
A demonic blob.
Yeah.
As in like a blob.
It's like a purple blob,
Mm.
and it possesses people.
Okay, cool. Okay, like it engulfs them in
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
Cool.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Where it just takes over their body.
And what? So did it take over Santa, and then everyone?
That's
got
what
bad
they
presents?
thought.
Oh.
But maybe not.
Oh, okay, I like that. Leave the cliffhanger in there
Yeah.
so people have to.
Oh, I've
play it.
already said the ending of the first series of it, so it'd be interesting for people to play it.
Yeah, well,
I really recommend it. Like I said, it's one of my favourite game series.
Fair.
And I love that kind of game. And I miss having so many of those. And like I've said in other ones, there are some recent games that are a bit like it. There's the new King's Quest, which is that kind of point and click game.
Cool.
But a very modern version of it. There's a game I got called Sexy Brutale, which I've not started playing yet, but is supposed to be a point and click game. So I'm hoping that's like it as well. So I'm still looking for them. I'm still out in the world trying to find me some more point and clicks.
Point and click. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's it for this episode. I think there's nothing else to say about that.
I don't know
think,
what to
I think
say.
the takeaway from what I'm trying to say is that if you build up the lore of a story enough that people understand it, you can do what you want. Because I think once people are on board with your story, then you can do all the weird shit. Whereas if it didn't have the context, it wouldn't work. I guess.
Yeah, no. If everything makes sense in context, is probably a good way to put that. Actually.
Context.
Yeah.
That's what that was about, really.
Context. Which also goes with the Studio Ghibli stuff, because in context it all made sense, but I didn't put the right context in it.
This was a very contextual episode.
Yes.
Yes. Plugs, have ye? I don't know why I said that.
Plugs, have you? Nothing in the mains.
No.
Okay.
Don't bring that back.
I'll plug the team. So, Swap Music. Follow us on Twitter at So Where You Headed Them. On Instagram at SWAT_music. On SoundCloud, SWAT_music. Yeah.
And your stuff?
Is at Mr. Souls and everything, apart from YouTube, where it's at Mr. SG Souls.
Souls spelled SOLS.
SOLS, because we illiterate.
And because it's short for solid, not because it's...
Yeah, of course.
It means a different thing.
Yeah,
entirely.
no. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more from me, you can go on YouTube and search Renegade Pineapple, where I play Let's Plays. And in roughly 3-4 weeks, there's going to be a new series on there where we're playing Kona, which I talked about earlier, which involves Mr. SG as well, and a few other people. So that'll be fun. You can go and look out for that. So
we
go
don't
and
care
subscribe
about
on
people,
there.
though. We only care about me.
We care about the whole series. Definitely go and subscribe. I think that was what you were trying to say there.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Have you
just
got
get my own special way?
Have you got any shout outs?
I will shout out. I thought that's plug-in, right?
Yeah.
That's a shout out.
Yeah.
Who to shout out? I'm gonna shout out a really good anime called Fairy Tail. It's on Netflix. It's
Guy with the pink hair. Is that one? Magic cat thing.
Yeah,
the same thing.
Yeah, he's got a talking cat.
There we go.
Yeah,
I've seen it on there. I haven't watched it. I think I went to watch it and then
it's good.
Didn't.
Fairy Tail don't have all. Fairy Tail Netflix don't have all of the episodes, unfortunately. So you might have to straight out of Netflix after. But it's good. There you go.
So my shout outs, it's not actually out yet, but it's just a thing to look for because it's something I'm really interested in. So the game that I've backed on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It's a point and click game. It's just really beautiful looking. It's all cartoony and nice. It's called Luna and the Shadow Dust.
Cool.
But go look that up.
It sounds like someone's getting on it.
What? Shadow Dust.
Yeah.
Is that like a good drug reference?
I don't know. You
Shadow-
tell me.
Shadow Dust. But it looks really nice. I played a demo of it. It's really good. I actually played a demo of it on my YouTube channel if you want to watch that as well. But look into that. What is your question of the day?
My question of the day
A week
is going to be... I don't know, I want someone to just come up with a really crazy story, you know? Like,
It's not really a question.
Nah, it's not really a question. I just want a really crazy story, you know?
You just want some surreal shit.
So some real shit,
Just,
man.
can
Just
you
like,
tell us a surreal story?
Can you tell me, like, something surreal? It doesn't have to be a story. It could even be a combination of words.
Just a weird sentence.
Just anything surreal. Just give me some surrealism in my life, man. Like, you know, like one massive canvas with one point, but it's not in the middle. It's just a little bit off to the right, and you're like, "Oh, that's
something
surreal.
a bit off-putting."
It's just off.
I have one of those.
Go on.
I have. I've ever told you my one-sentence intrigue story?
Go on.
You shall all die this night, laughed the raven.
Whoa.
Oh, why can the raven talk?
Boom.
Why is it laughing about your death?
Yeah, is it the killer? Boom, shit like that. See, that's great. That's a great example.
Should have made it
actually.
a raven though, especially since that was a misquote of my own thing. It's supposed to be a crow.
It's
not
a
a
crow.
raven.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
very much a distinction in that, because if you say it's a raven, everyone just thinks of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. Forevermore. Forevermore.
That's it for this podcast. Next week, we won't be doing topics or a top 5.
Wow.
Because we're going to be doing another episode of creating our own story. We could do something surrealist then.
Oh my god,
Exactly.
we've set ourselves up for the next one.
We do one where we'll be drawing on YouTube.
Because the last one was
Not surreal at all.
It was so straightforward.
So if you go onto our YouTube channel, which you can find links to wherever you are, even if you're already on YouTube, there'll be a link to it. Basically what we do is I draw along with what we're talking about, and we create our own game or film or television series or comic or whatever the wheel happens to land on. So look out for that next week in podcast 30.
Whoa!
See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. It's a wonderful